Guru Nation, welcome back. Very soon we'll be celebrating Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. We are thankful for viewers and listeners like you. And I've got my more cerebral business partner, Chris Sauber. He's very cerebral. He's thinking constantly about what can happen, what can go wrong, this and that. And that's perfect for today's topic, which is vision. You need to have vision, Chris, for whatever endeavor you're taking on. And I gotta add, people have really liked this series of entrepreneurship that you and I have been doing. Like people enjoy these candid conversations. So
They do, eh?
yeah,
Yeah,
the comments have been overwhelmingly positive.
very nice.
And so today's is no different, hopefully. We're here to deliver. It's vision, and it's having a clear concept of what success looks like to you before you even start building the roadmap. And then, if it's worthwhile, how to build that roadmap. And there's other layers to this, which we're going to get into, like existing proof of concept business. Like, do you have a business with existing proof of concept, or is it something brand new? Within the clinical research space, just about everything has already been done. Like the sites, you're not reinventing the wheel if you're starting a site. If you're starting a CRO, you're definitely not reinventing the wheel. If you're starting a biotech, you're not reinventing the wheel. Although you can, each of those, if you go deep enough in each of those verticals, at some point you can have something that does not have a proof of concept. Like the first company that wanted to start a siteless site, which sounds like oxymoron, but they were actually companies doing this, virtual trials, and that was not a proof of concept, but now there is a proof of concept there. So, this is what this topic's about. It's about vision. Is it worth, like, what does success look like to you? And I guess from the perspective of a site owner, what does success look like to you? Or just from the perspective of a business person, I guess, Chris. What
I think,
success looks like to Chris Sauber?
well, honestly, I think it'd be easier to answer from somebody who's starting a business from their perspective. I think that's really more in line with what we're trying to convey.
Yeah, everyone's definition of success gonna look different, right? Like this is a very personal
Sure. I, me personally,
topic.
I think there's steps to success when you're starting out. The first step or hurdle would be, can I support myself, my family, pay my
Yeah,
bills doing this,
yeah.
right? So that's the first hurdle.
Can
And
I
that
support
could
myself? Yeah.
that could take years to get to, potentially.
And
Um,
this is where philosophy comes in and where everyone's definition of success is very unique. There's a old
what
but somewhat famous story of two fishermen. I think it was either in the Latin America or Philippines. I mean, where it doesn't matter, but the story goes something like this. I might butcher it. One fisherman, there's two fishermen, and one fisherman just goes every morning, catches enough fish to eat, and goes home with his family and eats them. Sometimes he only catches enough just for the day.
eats the fish or eats the family?
No, no, he eats the fish. So he
Okay.
goes, maybe spends an hour or two, catches the fish, goes home. They eat, everyone eats, he stays with his family. The
Hmm.
other guy, the other fisherman says, "Why are you settling for just the bare minimum?" And the simple fisherman says, "Well, what are you trying to do?" He says, "Well, I'm trying to catch enough fish so then I can pay other fishermen to catch fish for me. So eventually we can build like an operation to where we could catch enough fish and grow this really big." And then the first fisherman says, "So what's the end goal?" And the end goal is, "Well, so I can go spend time with my family." And it's like, well, you're doing all this extra stuff, and really the goal for both fishermen was to just spend more time with their families. So it's you kind of have to ask yourself like, why are you doing what you're doing? There are like, do you want to leave a legacy? Do you want to try to do as good as you can in a certain endeavor? There's no right or wrong in my opinion. It's very personal to what
So,
people want. And Gen Z encompasses this very well because they kind of have this work-life balance thing as a high priority for them, whereas they make millennials look like hard workers. And millennials look lazy compared to your generation, Gen X. And your generation looks like delinquents compared to baby boomers. And I
hmm.
mean, this just goes on and on. So everyone's definition of success is very personal to them.
Well, I would say keeping the theme of our conversation thus far, I would say there is a right and wrong to this vision.
Mm.
And predominantly just one item, right? So if you get into this and your vision is a year from now, I would be a multimillionaire starting this business, you have the wrong vision.
Okay, got you.
And
Yeah.
that's in line with what we've already discussed previously, because it just doesn't work that way. I mean, yeah, you can get very lucky and it might,
Hmm.
but if you're stepping into this thinking that will be your end goal and it will be immediate, yeah, you're probably going to have another thing coming.
So very similar to another topic we had recently, success in this case, I guess we can both agree on, while money is important, success is not defined by the money itself.
Well, no, we disagreed on that too when we discussed that a bit. But no, I think definitely success can be defined, maybe not primarily or primarily, just depending on how you want to view it, on money generated. But if if time is also a component of that, you have to be realistic.
Okay. So, yeah, because once you define what success looks like for you, and you can add time to it. So, within the first year, this is what success would look like to me as a side owner.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe having one or two studies.
One or two PIs. Yeah.
Maybe we got some activated for those one or two studies.
Mhm.
Those would be like realistic. There's probably and that so it's hard to make a realistic goal if you don't know if you haven't done that business before, right? Like there might be a proof of concept from others who have done it, but if you're trying something brand new, let's say you want to make something brand new, like let's pretend there was no such thing as virtual trials, but you're an entrepreneur and you wanted to make siteless trials. You have a hard time defining what's realistic because nothing is realistic in that case. It's never been done. So you are literally going against reality with what
Well,
you're trying to do.
with that example, you even need a lot more time to your angle because
Mm,
things move so slowly in this industry, right? So if you're
mm,
implementing a new product that's
mhm.
completely new to the industry, I mean, how long did EDC to take to become 100% dominant,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like 10 years.
A good decade, I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the
So,
time they start developing it, coming up with the idea, metadata was like one of the first ones to do. And actually the founder of metadata, I forget his name, but he went up to space with Jeff Bezos. He went up in the Blue Origin a couple years ago, and then he passed away a couple years ago afterwards. Uh, I think he had an aneurysm in a helicopter. But yeah, I mean, he was probably came up with the idea and was working on it for a solid decade before it ever got really implemented to the vision that he expected,
mhm.
right? But for every one of him, there's probably many more failures, and they just cut their losses at some point, either because their vision is not fully executable or they don't have the perseverance or some of the things we talked about in the other podcasts. But I think the vision has a lot to do with it because you're gonna not give up if you have conviction in your vision. You'll
Mhm.
figure out a way to make it work.
I also think there's a difference between a vision and a dream, right?
Ah. Speak on it, man.
Well, I mean, sometimes I'll have, I don't mean sleeping dreams, but taking a shower, bored, thinking about stuff, and have a dream of this, right? Which is highly unrealistic. Whereas a vision should, I think, you want to kind of have functional realism uh, associated with it, right? We need to be realistic on
Hmm.
what our vision incorporates. Whereas our dream can be something a little bit more lofty, right? In
Yeah, a
terms
little more
of,
abstract.
just a little less
Or,
realistic. I mean, it could happen, right? Dreams can happen.
well, and I think if I could double click on what makes something realistic versus less realistic and more abstract, when you get into complex topics or corners of an industry, like EDC as an example,
Mhm.
or like anything, I mean, there's complexity to anything. I think if you can reverse engineer your vision into daily actionable tasks and then kind of have the day-to-day actions prove whether this vision's real or not, and if not, reiterate. The there's something that is to be said about the reverse engineering of that vision into concrete reality versus kind of these lofty abstract dreams that loosely connect dots, if at all, and
Mhm.
like just wildly skip around. Like, okay, in reality, you need certain things to connect, and you're kind of just loosely making these jumps that they'll connect. Like two different things will connect.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think I don't know how to articulate it better, but that's the difference I would say between, like, most people don't think things through fully. And it's okay if you
Well,
don't have a solution, but at least you can think through what you don't know yet and see if that's solvable, right? You can get to like something granular and say, well, how is this actually solvable? Maybe there's many ways, maybe there's no ways. And I think that's the main difference from my own observation and from others that I talk to as well.
I think from what you just outlined and going back to what we discussed previously, I think those can be simple definitions for dream and vision, right? So if your if your vision is to start a research site or some other business in research or any business in general, you need to be realistic on what the time frames look like on success. Whereas a dream could be, yeah, I'll be able to support myself 2 months from now, pay all my bills, I can quit my job. And
Right.
within a year, I'm a multimillionaire. That can
Right.
be your
Right.
dream, sure, but if you want to make it realistic, you need to have a vision on what steps do you need to take to get it there.
And all
Or-
steps need to connect.
Yeah.
And you can't just skip steps and say, well, we'll figure it out as we go. Well, yeah, there's truth to that, especially if there's no proof of concept for what you've done. But you need to figure out, even theoretically, what steps you need to take. What's the regulatory framework behind those steps? Why haven't someone else done it? There might be a reason why someone else hasn't done
Yeah,
it.
like it's not possible.
Or it's not worth doing. Maybe
Yeah.
there's so much regulatory capture in that little space you're trying to figure out. Like there's no way you're gonna entrench the incumbents who are dominating that space or maybe built such a great moat that it makes it cost restrictive for you to even try.
hmm And it's funny because I would say even more so than you, I speak to a lot of dreamers.
They
I
never
mean,
connect, right? There's something about what I said.
eh,
There's like steps don't
so I'll
connect.
give you an example. I spoke with a potential client yesterday,
Wow,
and
putting them on blast.
well, I'm not going to say their name.
Okay.
Doubt they watch this, but
Hello.
um, yeah, if they do, I'm not bashing this person. It's great to have dreams. But they're designing software that will work with any pharmacy, right? And what data they have on patients. And their thought is, okay, I'm going to start doing studies in pharmacies, right? Because I'll connect these pharmacies and have all the data on the
Hmm.
patients and be able to
Hmm.
recruit patients. And so I just asked them, are these places going to be set up to do research, right? You have a
Hmm.
lab in there, you
Hmm.
have, the necessities, the space, and all of this, because I highly doubt you do,
Right.
right? You're kind of putting the cart before the horse if you're not thinking about the logistics of
They haven't
how the
connected the steps.
right. And then I said, on top of that, who's going to be your PI? You have to have a doctor, right? Pharmacists can't be the PI.
Right.
Um, so
And it seemed
they
like one of those things where they will figure
right,
it out when they get there.
that was the secondary thing. I'll worry about the PI once I get all this stuff set up with the pharmacy. And I was like, man, you may want to reverse that, right? Because I doubt a pharmacy is going to be set up appropriately to do the research.
Yeah.
So you actually need to do the research at the PI's clinic. That would be your best bet. So you actually should try and find a PI and then worry about connecting these pharmacies around your local PI. That would be the better way to go about this, at least in my opinion. And I've been wrong before, so you do it as you see fit, but that's what I would recommend.
Well, if this person, that leads to another point then about vision, because everyone thinks their idea is unique, and it's very rare you have a unique idea. Like what you just mentioned is
Right.
pharmacy and CVS and Walgreens have both tried.
I told him that about CVS. And I said
And
they stopped. I don't know why, but for
yeah,
whatever reason it didn't work. And I said I assumed it's because of space.
yeah, or they figure, I think the reason the CVS stopped, Walgreens is still going, but CVS stopped because they found the juice wasn't worth the squeeze compared to the other stuff they do. Like there's actually not money falling out of the sky for research.
And that very well could be it. I just told him because I was trying to stress the point. Pharmacies are not set up for research.
Hmm.
Um, they're just not going to be for the most part. So I just told them CVS, I bet they realized that it's just kind of in accordance with what you said, but it had to do
Yeah.
around space.
That doesn't mean this person can't succeed, but they haven't researched it enough to connect the
Mhm.
gaps. And I think dreamers do that very well. They just like gloss over, like in a dream, if you get stuck, you can just fly or jump. Like you can't do that in
Sure.
real
Or it just
world.
skips that part,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
was in the way.
Well, in reality, you can't, and parts don't
Yep.
get skipped. Parts need to get connected. You
Yep.
need to have a roadmap. And this brings us now from the vision to the roadmap. So the roadmap makes the vision more tangible, and you can change the roadmap. If you That's called iteration. If you find something doesn't work, this another topic we talked about was adaptability, but or pivoting is what is widely referred to in the startup space. This company, this strategy didn't work, so they pivoted into another ancillary kind of pathway, which maybe there's actually more success going down that pathway, but you can't get there without having a roadmap and trying and testing the market. Because ultimately, we can think this is what the market wants, but until we do it, we you don't know. You don't know if the market wants it, right? Like when I started the site here in Yuma, it's not a new business. It's not a new concept of a research site. But research has not been done in Yuma before. So I had most of the gaps connected already because this has done before. I've done it before in other markets. The one gap I didn't have covered was, is Yuma, are sponsors willing to come out here even though it's like off the beaten path? So it is a little harder to send monitors here. Will that be an issue? I did not know the answer until I tried.
Well,
And once I realized that for the most part, no, it's not an issue, then I said, okay, we don't have really that to worry about. That's the last stone I figured that needed to be connecting. But in my head, it was just this abstract, I don't know, but
sure.
I think it's not going to be a problem, but I don't fully know until I start
Well,
doing it.
and we've told, going back 15 years now, potential clients that you want to be pretty much within an hour of an airport, right?
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
told potential clients this. And come to find out, just recently, I think you were on the email thread. I'm pretty sure you were,
Mm.
but maybe you weren't. We were speaking to someone about Yuma. I don't remember if it was you or me and Judy, but One of the sponsors said I think it was GSK or Lilly, I don't remember which, said they're apprehensive about working with Yuma
Hmm.
because of it being off the beaten path, right? That
And we
it's
work
a
with both of
hassle to
them.
get to. Yeah, they're less open to working in terms of all studies. It's just specific studies. Do you remember this?
No, I don't remember it, but that
This
is,
was like in the last week. So you weren't
yeah,
on that email.
no, but it's not surprising. And it's something that continues to uh, have to be proven, study
That,
after study.
that the juice is worth the squeeze.
The juice is worth the squeeze. Our monitors have come from Phoenix or San Diego. Yuma does have a direct flight now to Dallas, to and from Dallas. So we have had monitors from Texas, Arizona, and California. Basically, those have been our monitors, home bases. So it's worked okay for us. But the point is, it's you have to connect all the parts of the roadmap, not just most of them. And I had almost all of them except this last part of like, is Yuma still easily accessible for sponsors? And for the most part, yes. But like you said, there's still some hesitation, right? But it's still a functioning business model until the market tells me it's not anymore.
So Yuma has an airport, right? But it's a very small airport,
Yeah,
and
it just goes to Phoenix or Dallas.
and it takes small passenger planes, or
No, the ones to Dallas are big.
right?
Yeah, it has American Airlines.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually taking that one when I'm going to Houston. It's not the biggest one, not the 737, but the one
So
underneath it, like those
just
regional ones.
just on a complete tangent here, if there's any pharma companies out there watching, your CRAs can fly into Dallas and get a direct flight from Dallas to Yuma.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
make sure and be mindful of that. You have a CRA in Tennessee, Dallas, Yuma.
And Phoenix is like every hour or 2 hours to Yuma. So
But they
yeah,
only fly small planes, or no?
they
They
fly
fly
the
bigger
small
ones.
ones. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't know,
I don't
50.
like flying the small planes.
Yeah, you don't get that high either. But point of all this, to be a difference between a dreamer and having a legit vision, you have to be able to reverse engineer the pathway.
Mhm.
And you can't just skip steps. Like Elon Musk, he's got vision of going to Mars. And when he first came up with that vision, like if you didn't actually
Well,
know how
wait,
prepared he is.
I got to interject real quick.
Yeah.
I bet you for him, even it was a dream initially. And
Yeah.
then it's a dream. For most people, it's a dream
Yeah.
initially.
Yeah.
And then you have to start planning it out.
Well, and not just planning it out, planning every detail. So in
Hmm.
the book by Walter Isaacson, where they talked about this, like he got his metrics down. I think it was dollar per unit of cargo they can carry, like fuel, because the issue is having enough fuel to thrust that far up while still being cost effective. So like he got his vision down to like actionable measurements, metrics, and he's thought it through. He's done the math. He's like, it's just a math problem, he says at this point.
Hmm. Sure.
So the problem with most entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs is they haven't got that granular into their roadmap. They just think somehow the answers are gonna happen as you go.
So would you agree with this definition? A dream, a vision is a dream with a realistic
Plain?
plan,
Oh, plan.
realistic plan.
Yeah, yeah. And realistic not just to you, it has to be realistic to the market.
Sure,
Like it could be realistic to you, but you're just not a realistic person. So what good is that?
sure, sure. Or you're still dreaming.
Yeah, and we know many people that who they don't
Yep,
even realize they're dreaming, but they
yep,
are.
yep.
Like, okay, why don't you try like just the first part of your vision and see if even that gets you
Right.
anywhere before you start wasting more time
And
on
money.
the rest of the stuff and money. Yeah.
Time is
So
money.
so that's what's helpful with, and if you're new to business, I would think having a business with an existing proof of concept would be a good place to get started. So in research, The best example is research sites. Like there's plenty of proof of concepts in urban markets, tied to hospitals, tied to private practices. There's even been some tied to urgent cares, tied to pharmacies, not completely reliant on pharmacies, but tied to pharmacies. So you might have like the raw ingredients around you to be able to pull something off that other proof of concepts have already done. That's why I would say start with with an existing proof of concept business. And matter of fact, in our industry, in clinical research, and I'm sure there's something to be said here about any industry. If you start with something more simple that is kind of at the crossroads of many other things. So in clinical research, it's the site. The site deals with the patients, with the physicians, with the sponsors, with the monitors, with the technology. The sites deal with everything. If you are an entrepreneur and you've built a site, you can then start seeing the potential opportunities at all the other levels. Like we know site owners. I know like we work with one, Ronick, who made Patient Ace. Ronick saw the potential opportunities at the recruitment side. Well, all these recruitment vendors are ripping off sites and sponsors, and they're kind of doing a half-ass job. Why don't we actually do something that's cost effective for the sites that the sponsors like? I don't think he would have been able to see it as clearly unless he spent time at the site level.
Mhm.
And then the same is said, I know site owners that have created analytics for sponsors to detect fraud, like the clue points that the FDA uses for their data. Like these are site owners that became site like nerds when it comes to like metrics. Or Raymond Nomizu, the founder of Creo. He was a site owner first. What did he
Mhm.
see? He saw paper source. He saw how inefficient that was, according to
Mhm.
him, and he created Creo. Like that gave him the more of the vision. Like instead of it being a dream, I want to digitize all of research. Well, okay, where do you start and what are the regulations around that? So he had to learn that by being at the site level first in order to figure out a realistic pathway towards what is now Creo. Whereas if
Mhm.
you just start Creo out of the blue, you don't know even where to start. You don't know the major pain points first. It's a lot easier to be a practitioner and then solve other problems than it is to sit back and think about potentials without doing.
So there's other things to consider as well. There's a lot of this is a lot it's very dependent upon data, right? What do I need in terms to support myself? Can I make that kind of money? Whatever it might be, doing research. How long does it take to get there? Again, you want to be realistic with all this. And I'm sitting here thinking while you were speaking, I was listening, but also thinking about what would be a good example outside of research for those, because we're not just going to, do this for just research, but let's say you're a good cook, right? And everybody that tries your food says, hey, you should start a restaurant, right? Is that a good idea? Well, are restaurants successful? I would say no for the most part, right? It's very difficult to start a successful restaurant.
Mm.
And then, yeah, maybe your food is great, but is it only good if it's fresh? Does it all need to be made, you know, per order, or can it sit for a while, right? What kind of food are you preparing? Is it a productive food
Mhm.
for a restaurant context, right? There's a lot of things to consider in terms of what your vision is and does it work? Um,
Yes, there's
like,
actually another example of this. Um, Travis Kalanick, the founder of Uber.
mhm,
Uh, so I don't think he's involved in Uber anymore, but he's the guy who kind of pioneered the rideshare with your app. Like, he created that whole
the software,
paradigm shift of like, and that was a first proof of concept, right? Well, he created cloud kitchens, which is essentially Uber for having in-house cooks for your home, for like to prepare a meal. And
So,
at the
wait,
cost
wait, wait.
of,
So I understand this. Are
yeah,
you saying that people at home cook food? Like, you know, Dora, she cooks a dish and Uber comes and picks it up and takes it to another person?
that's one aspect, but what he can do, that they can do that as well.
Okay.
But no, he's talking about like basically private chefs that come to you. So they'll
Hmm.
buy the groceries. They'll
And come to
you
your
got
house and
them.
cook it?
Yeah,
That's got to be very expensive.
he got it. He's getting the cost lower and lower.
Hmm.
And it only works in certain markets where there's like actually demand for that. But that's another example of like him. He had to create Uber first for that to even like be considered
Sure.
a stretch imagination, right? Like he had the logistical capability to figure that out.
Well, it sounds like he's trying to find other ways to what's the word? Profitize?
Yeah.
No. Profitize?
Well, monetize.
Monetize, thank you.
Yeah.
Monetize Uber. Um, so yeah, and this is just another way to monetize Uber.
Yeah. And existing restaurants can participate. Um, like there's basically it's kind of like in research, there's virtual sites. These are like virtual restaurants. So it could be
Hmm.
anywhere from they have the high end, just like Uber has Uber Black to Uber X. You can get the chef to come to your house as like the very highest end, or you can have someone like Dora cook a
Prepare a
meal
meal,
in a ghost kitchen and
and
send it
Uber
to
picks it up,
someone.
and yeah.
Yes, and then Chic Uber or this cloud kitchen, whatever it's called, can help that chef create their virtual restaurant. And it's all based on reviews and like it's the same thing as an Airbnb or a Uber, but
Mhm.
it's a vision that he had. But for to anyone else, that would be a dream. But to the guy who pulled off Uber, he actually probably sees it at the nuanced level of, every small detail.
So taking it a step further and just considering this vision or dream,
Hmm.
would you agree that that needs to be primarily in more not established, more exclusive areas? Um,
I think well, it depends on which model, but there's different models that work for
well, I would
like
think any of them are kind of costly.
well, it even
Well,
helps brick and mortar restaurant like Sizzler, something that's not as popular where they have raw ingredients left over that are perishable.
mhm.
So if they develop a virtual brand that's not even necessarily Sizzler, it could be something else, and then they kind of have this service kind of helped by the technology, right? To match the demand to the supply is essentially matching supply to demand as opposed to not having that conduit and then you just have leftover supply that is basically worthless.
Okay, fair enough. But taking the upper echelon of this concept,
Mm,
the chef comes to your house.
hmm.
I would say that has to be in more upper
Oh
echelon,
yeah, that's like New York, San Francisco,
like
yeah.
Manhattan,
Yeah, yeah.
Beverly Hills.
And I've listened to Travis's interviews on this. In those areas, it's actually more cost effective to do this than to go out if you include having to pay for parking, having to find, and then the restaurants are going to charge you.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, if you have an exclusive chef coming to your house, that alone is going to have to cost, I don't know, 500, $1,000, something like that.
And there's people that pay that much for meals. So,
Well, yeah, I think so. For
yeah,
just like two people,
I've spent more than that for, yeah.
for just you and Dora,
Yeah.
more than $1,000.
Well, we're talking like Michelin star places, but yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. You're not gonna get a Michelin star chef, but it is more cost effective than it sounds like is his point. Because
I don't
basically
know if I
it's
agree with that, but okay.
well, you're not getting Michelin star chefs, but you're getting personal chefs
Sure, sure. You're getting a chef from Ruth Chris or something like that,
or just
maybe.
someone trained that, has extra time and the actual ingredients themselves are not expensive. It's the preparation. And so he's just matching
Hmm.
supply with demand and
Hmm.
using technology as a lever to do
Hmm.
that. And I told our latest Patient Ace employee today. Patient Ace is essentially we're going to start making like social media content for sites.
Patient
So
Ace is a marketing company.
yeah, it's our basically our marketing company. So it's essentially the technology servicing the supply and demand in a way too, where you want the technology to be like the power cord that you plug in. It should be invisible. So you have like the electricity in the wall, and then you have whatever you're plugging into the wall as the desired output. So in the case of a research site, the desired output is branding for patients, right? Like getting patients interested in your site. The wall itself is like the ability to produce content or an ad, and the cord to connect those two things is Patient Ace. It should be ubiquitous. And ultimately, this is what technology is. It becomes ubiquitous, and therefore it becomes deflationary. But when you're new or a newer concept, it's not yet deflationary. It's
Yeah.
deflationary later on.
Well, deflationary can be argued, but I'm going way off on a tangent here. But my daughter wants a PC for Christmas,
Ah, not a Mac?
a desktop PC,
Okay.
and I've built a few in my life, and I swear the prices just go up and up, like double every few years. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with inflation, not necessarily the deflationary aspect of technology. So there's arguments there.
Well, if you want the latest gadgets with the latest technology, yeah. But if you want the more ubiquitous, tried and true, they're actually cheaper.
Well, sure. So if you were to purchase, say, a video card from 5 years ago that was top of the line, yeah, it's way cheaper now. But if you
Yes.
want comparable, right, this video card that was in the top
The
90% five
latest,
years this,
yeah, the
and
latest.
you want the top video card is double the cost now.
But that's exactly to my point. Tech is inflationary and eventually deflationary.
Sure, as the tech gets older, it becomes deflationary, but the new tech
Of
becomes more
course,
expensive.
because there's always going to be early adopters, early mover advantages, even in things like AI. How many small businesses are not using AI yet? I would say a good amount. How many big businesses are not using AI yet? I would say very few.
But the argument's a little soft because, like Michael Burry, which he's getting chewed out for, is saying NVIDIA's chipsets will only be good for about 2 years, not the five they're saying. And that's kind of true, right? Because technology advances so rapidly. A 2 year old chipset becomes almost worthless because it's so much slower than something that's modern day, right? Today.
Right. He would argue that yeah, he would agree with kind of what I'm
That's
saying.
what he said. That's why he's betting against AI.
Betting AI as a premium versus a ubiquitous price point is what he's getting at.
It's just more the fact that technology is not necessarily deflationary because the newer products replace the old products, they make them obsolete. So yeah, that old product is way cheaper now, but nobody wants to use it because it doesn't
Correct.
accomplish what the new stuff does.
Well, it's kind of like the argument of HHE, so health, housing, and education. Those are always hyperinflationary environments, whereas everything else seems to be getting cheaper with the new iterations. And that's due to government subsidies and over-regulations and things like that. But it's cheaper if you have a hole in your drywall at your house, it's cheaper to hang a flat screen on it from Walmart than it is to get someone to come fix it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So that just shows you that it's both the inflationary initially and deflationary towards the end, which I think if you're somebody looking to get into any business, you got to start looking at technological enhancements, especially on the slower to adapt industries, which is going to get harder to do. But in our industry, clinical research, there is now a move towards AI. And it really started at the sponsors on the drug discovery side. And the CROs keep reiterating during their earnings call that they are service providers and not technology companies, even though IQVIA spends a lot of money buying the latest gadgets. You get CROs like MedPace that don't waste time with that stuff and are blowing them out of the water as far as profitability is concerned. So just look at their two stocks and compare.
I didn't tell you this, and this is again another tangent.
Well, that's why people love it. They love the tangents.
So I didn't tell you this. So about 2 weeks ago, I had a conversation. I don't remember with which company. It was either Novo Nordisk or Novartis. Um, I had to guess. I think it was Novartis. But the lady I was speaking with was telling me that their company now is getting to where they won't consider sites unless they have an e-source. And that has never been true. And I even told her at the time, it's funny because I said most companies I speak with, they don't care if you use paper or electronic. And she said, yeah, I can't remember the reasoning she gave exactly. It was something to the effect that we find that data is more reliable,
Yep.
something to that effect when it's an electronic system.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to spread that word.
Everything's a moment in time. I can't say I didn't call it, but I called it.
Well, I meant to tell you, and I've been forgetting to tell you this.
It's not surprising to me.
Yeah.
It's in our industry, it's very much dictated by what the sponsors want. They are the
Yep.
customers,
Yep.
and they go by what the FDA tells them is acceptable or not. So once the FDA gets more lenient about, hey, yeah, of course, AI is going to be, before it was eSource, now it's going to be AI. And
Hmm.
AI is already going to release guidances, or the FDA is already going to release guidances on what's acceptable for proper AI use, what's not. As soon as they get the green light, they being the sponsors, they're going to tell the CROs and the sites to start doing it. And that's the new norm. The only reason the sites and CROs are not doing it is because they're afraid they're going to piss off their sponsors because it's not their IP, it's not their protocol. Ultimately, everything stems from the protocol on a study, anyways. So once the sponsors say no, it's expected that you utilize AI in this fashion. Matter of fact, here it is in a safe sandbox for you to use. And all, by the way, it only works if you have eSource. Well, it's only a matter of time before everything changes. And this leads into the whole consolidation of site and that mega trend that's kind of happening because site services are going to become ubiquitous the more you digitize it, in my opinion, which is why I always say we got a good decade left as independent site owners, in my opinion.
I don't know. Things may revert back. It's funny how that works a lot of times.
We'll
Now,
see.
I'm not saying independent sites won't be required to invest heavily into the required tech and other items that maybe larger companies utilize, but I would be surprised if single sites are still in existence.
I think you're always going to need new sites, mainly because they provide new patients and they provide, I guess, new access to new communities that's the only part left of our industry that's physical, right? It's like it's blood in tubes. Like you can't digitize that. It's where these patients live in communities. Okay. Like you can't really digitize that. Everything else you can reduce to ones and zeros. And so you'll always need some new sites basically to access new communities for research. But other than that, they can be absorbed pretty quickly into an existing billion-dollar site networks ecosystem pretty easily, actually. So there'll be liquidity in the market for like scrappy startup site owners, but they eventually get bought out and the premiums are going to go down.
Well, what about this example? Remember 10 years ago, SMO was a bad word.
Yeah, it kind of
And
still is, no?
no, it's coming back to where many sponsors are again like to work with SMOs. I think it's the same kind of
Yeah.
paradigm shift where it kind of just fluctuates back and forth. Um,
Yeah, I think the SMOs got over their skis with the scaling without focusing on the quality, and now site networks have basically proven that don't worry, sponsors, we actually thought of the quality
Hmm.
first.
Hmm.
Um, and we use ubiquitous tools and we're all streamlined. And it used to be like you would be a generalist coordinator who would do everything from A to Z.
Hmm.
It's actually that's rare now. You have at these big site networks very specialized
Sure.
roles. And less mistakes are made that way, to be honest with you. Like I'm running a
Oh,
site
sure.
where we still have A to Z basically. Everyone does A to Z. It's not as efficient as if I had a EDC person, a recruitment person, a regulatory person, and at some point we are going to make that shift, maybe sooner than later. But I think I try to make it a good environment for the staff to like build up their resumes and have good
Hmm.
careers, but ultimately the market dictates what it wants, not what I feel like would be nice to
Sure.
give to people.
Sure. But my point is that I think there will always be space for, and you already kind of said there would be, but for the single sites, right?
Yes, because you need the new entrants to keep things fresh and to give new data to sponsors. Like, oh, who wants another site in Miami? Like you already consolidated all you can. Well, but what about Montana? Like we don't only site
And that
there is like the university.
and
What
that's
about all
not
those Native Americans out there?
sure, and that's not to say that once that site in Montana is established, that a site network or SMO that's operating in the Northeast or wherever won't make effort to acquire that Montana
Or
site.
even the Miami site network might be like, listen, our
Then
only
we need to expand,
our only chance of surviving is if we buy this site in Montana.
right? Or
You
just
know?
expand outside Florida.
Yes. Yeah, and
Yeah.
technology is the lever that makes that happen. Like,
Allows it to happen. Not makes it happen, allows it to happen, in my opinion.
yeah, allows versus make. That's probably a good podcast or a good
Mhm.
subchapter in the book. But
Because what makes it happen is more would be either economics or, well, it's still
what makes it
economics.
happen would be sponsor demands.
That's what I was going to say, but that's still economics, right? Because
Yeah,
that's
of
where
course.
the flow of revenue comes from. But
There's
I
either
guess,
offensive requirements, like, hey, this is the new standard,
mhm.
versus defensive requirements. FDA wants us to do this now too.
but
So both of those are mandates that,
but allow speaks to the fact that technology is there to allow it to happen, right?
right, yes, and the mandates wouldn't happen without the technology infrastructure in place, at least in our industry.
Yeah, fair point.
The way I see it, I think other industries are more like Wild West. Our industry is not so much so, and
Sure,
probably rightfully so.
it's very regulated.
Yeah, thank God, can you imagine if it wasn't? Like, I don't know if I would trust taking medicines.
Yeah, there's arguments for free market.
Sure, but when it comes to like
The medicine may not work, but it would be a hell
putting
of a lot
pills in your
cheaper.
body, or
It
it's
may not work, may even kill you, but it would be cheaper.
and quite honestly, the high regulations is what gives us a job in our industry is the fact that the sponsors can't just pretend. Or can you imagine if the FDA said you can now use real world evidence, retrospective data from EMRs to run your trials? You don't need sites anymore. And we
Mhm.
just run simulations. Instead of having 400 real participants, we just need 40,000 EMRs retrospective. The N number would still, or the statistics would power it to be the same within a P of 0 point less than 0.05. I mean, hell no, but maybe they do that one day.
Well, I have argued now for a good at least 10 years that I think we could get away with just running phase two and not phase three trials, right?
Yeah,
Make sure the drug is safe, right? Phase one,
yeah.
phase two, and then let it determine whether or not it's efficacious
I
by
could
open
actually see
market
that.
use.
Yeah, I haven't thought that through, but if you think about roughly only like 25% of drugs make it to phase three from phase two.
Hmm.
Phase two is really where like 75% or more drugs fail. So you are basically saying, okay, if you make it past phase two, it's safe enough And then it has some level of efficacy, at least in a
Hmm.
short-term basis, to where
Yep.
you want to put on in a longer-term study, right?
Yeah, but the longer term study could just be open market
Right, right. And they're thinking of doing that with rare diseases and with I mean
as it is. Hmm.
that's the whole argument around fast track designation.
Hmm.
And they do this in oncology all the time. The one we're invested in, Iova,
Sure.
they got what is it called? Provisional approval on fast
Hmm.
track. So they did a good phase 2 study and now they have to just prove it on the phase 3. But in the meantime, they're allowed to sell the drug.
Hmm.
And then if the phase 3 is good, the provisional approval is removed, and now they're going to be more incentivized to figure out other indications as well
Right.
with the same drug. So it kind of is headed in that direction, but
But
only for the things that are like unmet needs.
it would, I, I think substantially lower drug costs to remove the phase three requirement, right? In which I'm guessing that's a quarter of the cost of the drug development process, somewhere in that realm. Um,
Phase 3.
yeah, I would guess that's 25% of the cost of drug development, right? Because you have
Hmm.
lab and bench,
Yeah,
then you have animal, then you have human, then phase two. It's probably around 20, because that phase three study is usually very long, very costly.
right, right.
So it's got to be 25% of cost. That would lower drug costs a bit.
Yeah, but then this other headwind would be personalized medicine, which is kind of the way things are going with gene editing and autologous cells being put back into your own body in the case of cancer. So that's costly right there as well. But that's another very highly inflationary, soon to be deflationary process as as the tools get better, those get cheaper.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're headed towards curing cancer little by little, one indication at a time.
So here's a philosophical question for you. Is curing
Yeah.
cancer a good idea?
Yeah, why not? I mean, a lot of people are dying from cancer that shouldn't be. And
Well, there's a lot of people that argue the planet's overpopulated as is. And
yeah,
now you're expanding the survival rate,
I
and
know.
on top of that, you're
But I think that
increasing.
narrative is dying down though.
Well, for sure, I don't necessarily think the planet's overpopulated. I really don't. But what I do agree with is it's costly for a
To keep people
society
alive
to
longer,
keep
yeah.
people alive later in life because they become more expensive
I
to.
mean, look in Canada what they're doing. They're pushing euthanasia on a lot of people because
They
they
are.
can't pay for the
It was like a 28-year-old that was put to death.
yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. So no, I think in my opinion, the answer is to try to improve lives for people. And uh so that means, yeah, trying to find better treatments that makes people live longer and better quality of life. And there's a market for that where people will pay for it. And that's our country. Now, if you take that to Europe, where
But
there's
you
not a
still
market,
you don't want to go with my argument. Is it a good idea?
no, the answer is yes.
It
Yeah.
is a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That becomes, you're asking a science question versus a question for nation states to figure out.
Hmm.
Like from a human being perspective, yes, it is a good idea. From a nation state perspective, they're gonna have to figure it out and let them tell their own people it's not worth it.
Well, I don't know if it's worth it. It's just, well, yeah, I guess not worth it. I guess a good term.
Yeah.
Just doesn't sound good.
I mean, we don't have the best system here, but we seem to be creating the majority of the innovations. Now
Well,
China's catching up, but
sure.
yeah, it's a good time to be alive.
Is it?
I think so.
Has there ever been a bad time to be alive?
Probably not. I think just the fact that you're alive is a miracle in and of itself.
There you go. That was really more what the question was bound to.
So that answers your societal question, you
But I
know.
don't think it does because it's very costly the older you get to maintain life. It gets very costly.
I think if the ability is there, the technology is there, it becomes society's should become society's quest to accommodate the
I don't
increase
know.
quality of life and longevity of its people.
Well, is it up to each individual to pay for the other's individual life, or is it up to the individual to pay for their life?
Yeah, it's I think everyone's got to figure that out. I mean, if Eli Lilly doesn't really care about that kind of question, they just care if and they shouldn't. They should just care if their product is going to do the
That's
longevity and the
not what they
Q.
care about either. It's is it profitable? That's what they care about.
And as long as it continues to be, which in our country still is, they will
Hmm.
keep doing it. I think it's
Yeah.
better for if you on an individual level, on a nation state level, and then if you talk global economies in that order, um, is what these drug companies, which are multinational, but now are getting very US centric with this administration. They're going to go back towards looking at that customizable solutions. And yeah, I mean, this Iova thing is like $500,000. What, but one and done treatment. I mean, it's a 40, it's not a 40% chance. It's a 40% chance that you will live um, twice as long as the standard of treatment, but there's also a 15% chance that you are cured.
Hmm.
Those are what the numbers are looking like. If I'm in that situation, I take that chance,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Hmm.
And ultimately, the patient gets that choice, at least in our country.
Some countries they don't though.
Correct.
Yeah, I just don't know if the economics play out that it makes sense to do, but that's for another podcast.
Wow, they keep competing. Look at how many GLPs are out there in research. It's like 80 something GLPs are in studies right now.
Sure.
So those are basically life extenders and quality of life drugs.
Hmm. And profitable.
Highly and decreasingly so as more competition comes on.
Oh, sure. That's the point of free market. Competition lowers prices and
Yep.
hopefully increases outcomes.
Well, I think we covered a lot on vision. We even touched on political visions for nation states and governments. So, yeah, good luck to anyone out there trying to do that.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it was a great podcast, man. But I'm gonna have to get going. My car wash guy is here.
got to get that car washed.
Yeah, they're being washed right now.
All right, man. Have a good
Like,
Thanksgiving. I'm sure I'll talk to you before Thanksgiving,
oh,
but
for sure. There's 2 days before. That's a lifetime.
yeah, I wasn't sure I would talk to the ladies before. That's why. So I don't need to wish
Oh,
you
okay.
Thanksgiving. Happy
Not yet,
Thanksgiving yet.
man. Not yet. But to all the viewers and listeners, happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Like, subscribe, comment, share. Catch you all later.
Bye.
Gobble gobble.